Yeah, just first of all, before getting started, just want to, mention, Shawn Clark, passed away, I guess it was Sunday night. And just mention his family, Janelle, Gianna, Braxton, his two kids. Shawn and I were teammates at App State back in the 90s, and then coached together for several years, and obviously been close for a long time. He was a great guy, a really good football coach, but more importantly, a great guy, great husband, father, and he'll be missed. Just prayers go out to his family, and what a tragedy. 50 years old, it just shows how short life is and how we need to live it to the fullest. But I want to mention that first, and then obviously huge week for us this week, starting Big 12 play. A really good opponent. Kansas, on the road. Obviously, more difficult to go win out on the road in the Big 12, but I think Kansas has done a great job since Coach has been there, and he's really changed that whole program. It's amazing, what they were before, what they are now, and you watch the film, and they're good in all three phases. They play hard, they're physical. If you relax on any phase, they're gonna put it to you. I think. Obviously starts with the offense with Jalen Daniels, a guy who's played for 6 years, outstanding player, and can run, can throw, does it all for them, kind of makes their offense go. Defensively, very active, very physical, very aggressive defense. And then you look at the teams. I mean, their field goal kicker, I think it's 5 for 5. And then he had a big kickoff return last week for a touchdown as well, so they're very solid in that also. So, obviously a great challenge for us, but we're excited about the challenge and looking forward to playing our first Big 12 game.
They've got a rushing attack that is difficult to defend. How much do you talk to your guys about eye discipline and not falling for some of the sleight of hand and stuff like that they pull?
Yeah, I mean, I think they do a great job with, with their scheme, Obviously, they can run the football, but then just when you're committed to the run or whatever, they play action and there goes a guy free. You look on film a lot. There's a lot of guys free and running down the field, and Jalen's got 12 touchdown passes. I mean, because of it, and so to your point, you got to look at your keys. You can't have your eyes looking somewhere else. All of a sudden, now your guy is going to beat you, and then they're going to make you pay. So, fundamentally, I think this is going to be a fundamental game for us. I think, and that's part of being fundamentally sound is your eye discipline, but also tackling. I think tackling is going to be huge. I mean, I watched them play West Virginia. I was, sitting at home watching them, and their running back making guys miss. So tackling is going to be a big emphasis for us. This week for sure, because Jalen's hard to tackle too. The quarterback. I mean, he's another big, strong guy. So I mean, fundamentally. Have to be able to tackle, bring your feet, but eye discipline will be huge.
Are you looking forward to your first injury report, and what can you tell us about Dante?
No, I mean, what not really necessarily looking forward to any injury report, but I mean, I know that's coming out today, and it is what it is. I don't put a lot of stock in that really. I mean, we're going to get out there on game day and you see who's playing and who's not. I think is the main thing, but. Dante's making great progress. He'll be listed as questionable as we come out tomorrow for our report. But he's making great progress, and obviously we'll see as the week goes and see how he's progressing.
What would you say is the biggest thing you learned about your team during the bye week, or even this whole 4-week stretch where you kind of play a really big game and then a little bit before you get to conference play?
I mean, I think looking back on the 3 games that we played, we obviously did a lot of good things throughout the 3 weeks, things that we needed to get better on. I think, we're still obviously working hard to get better. We're nowhere near where we can be, I don't think. I think, obviously you break it down into 3 phases. I mean, we're solid in the special teams. I still think we can get a lot better in the teams. Defensively, I think we've been solid there as well. Second half of the Bowling Green game, I didn't think we tackled as good in the second half of that game. I still think, we got to do a better job of creating turnovers. I still think that's a point of emphasis. Then offensively, I think we've the last, each week, I think we got more and more efficient throwing the football. Obviously, wasn't as good as the first week as we, but we got better with that. I don't think we've run the ball exceptionally well, but I think we've been solid. You'd like to be better at that as well. So I think we've been a pretty solid team over the first 3 games. Came up a few plays short in the first one, and then, but we also know that the real season starts now. Big 12 play. Everybody's good. Everybody's coached well. I think we've seen that as you go. Watch most all our teams in the Big 12 have gone out and done some really good things, and then we've already started to see teams beat up on each other. It's crazy as these teams start playing. Just sitting there watching the Utah Texas Tech game, 2 really good football teams. Somebody's got to lose. And you're looking at Baylor. Baylor's a really good football team, and what's their record? 2-2. Could easily be 4-0 right now. It's the way it's going to be week in and week out. And I think Kansas has a really, really good football team. I think we got a good team. And I think as you go through these games, there's going to be a lot of tight games. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. But you got to find some ways to hit your plays and limit them hitting theirs. And that's really what it's going to come down to. And who does that the best will end up ultimately winning these games. And it is going to be a 3. You got to look at all 3 phases. Like I think. So many times you just look at offense and defense, kicking game in this league is going to be huge. Just look at the field position. It's going to be huge. I think about just the Kansas-West Virginia game. They had a kickoff return for a touchdown, Kansas did. Then they had another kickoff return for close to 50 yards. Their punters, number 1 net punting in the conference, at punting 47, 48 yards, a punt. They're flipping the field. Those hidden yards right there are huge, and I think that's going to be a huge part of the teams that win this league.
Scott, condolences to you. Obviously, a very tragic loss. How do you stay focused, knowing that you're grieving loss of a close friend, while also knowing your team's first Big 12 game is this Saturday? How do you stay focused with that balance?
Yeah, I think obviously he was a close friend of mine, really close, and. It's difficult, and I think life throws a lot of things at us all, and that we all have to deal with. And I'm sure, I think in times like this, I think about our players a lot because, we got 100 and some guys on our team, and each week there's something going on with one of our guys, maybe back home, a family member, a loved one, and we expect them to come into the building and be focused and ready to go, and so I think about them, and I think about how. I don't want to let anybody down in this building. And so, when I'm at home and I got time to think about it and grieve, then that's what I'm doing. When I'm here, I'm focused on what we have to do. And I think you have to be able to do that. We always talk to our players about be where your feet are. And, when I'm here, my feet are here, then that's where all my focus has to be. But yeah, obviously you're human too, and it's difficult. But I know Shawn would want that same thing. Shoot, man, he was as competitive as anybody. So, when it's time to play, it's time to go to work, it's time to go to work.
Neil and Austin.
Coach, when you look at an offense surrounding Jalen Daniels, a guy who has faced so much adversity throughout his career, what makes him such a unique and dangerous challenge when you guys face a guy like Jalen Daniels in this weekend?
Man, there's a lot of different things. Number 1 is experience. He's played a lot of football. You think about 6 years, an old quarterback, and he's seen it all, and he's made a ton of plays in a lot of different ways. He's just there's not one thing that he's not good at. We've seen him do some incredible runs throughout his career. We've seen him make some incredible passes throughout his career. When he's on, he's as good as anybody in the country. And he's certainly got the ability to be on like that. Now, we obviously have to do some things to make him a little bit more uncomfortable. Now, whatever that looks like, obviously we wouldn't say that, but we're going to have to do some things to make him uncomfortable because, if he is comfortable and he's able to make the plays like that, he can embarrass you, really, quite honestly. And he's got some really good players around him also. I think their offensive line plays good. He's got some good skilled players, a good running game. So he presents a lot of issues and a lot of problems.
Austin.
Kansas ranks in the top 40 turnover margin. How important is it for your guys to win that turnover battle?
Yeah, it's huge. It's a huge stat, and it is every week though. Again, when you talk about when the margins are so tight, if you give a ball away, you have a hard time winning when it's that way. So you know, we got, again, I mentioned this earlier, we got to do a better job of creating turnovers. We certainly got to take care of the football. Like, if you don't take care of the ball, you have a hard time to go on the road and win the game. You know, so turnover margin's huge. As I mentioned earlier, I think tackling is going to be huge in this game as well. You know, and field position, so that speaks to special teams.
Kind of continuing with Daniels, last year he had some struggles. They ended the season really hot. What have you seen as the differences compared to from this season to last season in his game?
Yeah, you know, I think when you make their offense, if you can do a great job in stopping their running game, I think that certainly plays in your favor, because if they're able to get that running game going, then they're just hard to stop. Because now, you know, just as soon as you commit to stop and run, well, there goes somebody free in the passing game, and now he's got easy throws. You know, obviously, you know, you got to do a great job of stopping the run to try to limit that. And I think Missouri was able to do that in the one game they lost, even though they did still score a lot of points in that game. You know, but I think that gives you the best chance, because, you know, knocking them off the sticks and not letting them stay in that just normal routine, that's going to be the key. I think Bennett comes back to being fundamentally sound and tackling well.
Who plays Daniels on the scout team? Samaj is the most similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Samaj, you know, he's working on our end, the offensive end. You know, I think Kinsey's probably, you know, he's a bigger kid, can run as well, you know, and he's got a live arm, so obviously he'll probably play a little bit of that. Coker's been down that end as well. Obviously not the kind of runner that you would think, you know, Daniels is. You know, but Samaj is the closest thing to that. You know, if they feel like defense they need another look, we slide them down there for a period or two for sure. You know, it's for more than us, I think it's just more fundamental, being where you're supposed to be. Eye discipline, lining up correctly is probably the most important thing.
Defensively, they've given up some yards, but they've done a pretty good job outside of, you know, a half versus Missouri, keeping teams out of the end zone. Is it kind of a similar approach where they'll bend a little, but they do a nice job bowing up?
Yeah, I think, you know, I thought they looked great against West Virginia. I mean, West Virginia scored late in the game, but I mean, they held them all game long. I think West Virginia was maybe 3 for 13 on third down. I mean, go back to the Missouri game. Missouri hit 3 fourth downs, 2 of them scored on fourth down. I mean, like they were, you know, giving Missouri a lot of fits. I think, you know, that game they were ahead in that game with 6 minutes to go in the game. You know, Kansas was, and then, you know, Missouri hit a fourth down. I think it was a 4th and 6 or 7 that scored. You know, to take the lead, and then they were running the clock out the end, and they pop a long one, so the score really didn't indicate how close that game was. You know, I thought Kansas played an outstanding game. Obviously in that one, they also made the quarterback fumble, picked it up, and ran it in, and scored on defense as well. So, you know, again, they've done a really nice job. All 3 phases, but I think they're really good. I think they're really good on defense, and they've caused problems. I think they're second in the Big 12 in sacks right now with 12. So yeah, I mean 12 or 13, they're right there at the top. You know, they put pressure on you, and they try to knock you off your sticks.
Coach, you mentioned the run game for Kansas, led by Daniel Hishaw and LaShawn Williams. Obviously, Hishaw's a little bit banged up heading into this one. What makes that 1-2 tandem so special and so hard to defend for opposing defenses?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're having to defend obviously the quarterback also, you know, and I think that's part of it. So if you're having to put somebody in that has to have the quarterback, well, that's one less guy that's going to be on the running back. So what it does, it frees up an extra guy. So a lot of times there's one guy that may be free to tackle that running back. And you go back and I watched the West Virginia game. You know, they had some of their long runs. They're making guys miss. You know, they're running through tackles. The long run, I think he made 2 guys miss and ran through another one, and it was a 60-yard touchdown. So, and that's kind of what it goes back to. You may be the one guy that has to make the tackle. You got to bring your feet. You got to wrap up. Like, I think that's the key. And these guys are strong runners. You know, they're compact, strong runners. They run through tackles, and it's hard to get a lot of hats on the ball. I think that's the key.
Scott, 2 years in to the Big 12, you and this program, what's the biggest thing you've learned coaching in this conference, and what is the biggest point of emphasis for your team this season to get to where you want to go, which is Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've learned is that every single team has really good coaches and really good players, because like when I was in the ACC, I felt like, man, there's 3 or 4 teams like, man, we go out here, we're going to win this game. It's what you felt like. You know, I don't feel that way in this league. I feel like everybody in this league, you from top to bottom, you better show up or they will beat you. And so what it says about is that the guys are coached well. And then everybody in this league, I think, is very similar in talent. I think the talents are similar. And so it's going to come down to how hard a guys play on that particular day. How locked in are they? You know, are you healthy? All those type things matter. And then I think the margins are so tight. So therefore, all three phases have to be really good. We have not been great special team wise, you know, the first couple of years. I think we're better this year. That gives you a better chance for field position, which gives you a better chance to score and or keep guys out of the end zone from scoring. So to me, it's a cumulative effect of all three phases that we've gotten better. I feel like we've gotten better in the 3 years that we've gotten here, and that will give us a chance to compete for the Big 12.
You had a big noisy crowd in the Nebraska game. This is supposed to be a sellout. I don't know how noisy it is, but are you guys ready for the silent count and all that stuff?
Yeah, they did renovations in the stadium last year, so this is the first year back in the stadium, and apparently the visitor side, I guess, is they're going to tear down next year and fix that also. So, so basically a new stadium, you know, sell out this year. I think there may be 40,000 is what I'm hearing that will be there. There is an open end zone in this facility here, unlike like Arrowhead where it's all closed in and kept all the noise in. So maybe not quite as loud because of the open end zone, but yeah, we'll be prepared for if we need to go silent cadence. I watched the Texas Tech Utah game, and Texas Tech I think had 8 false start penalties. They were struggling with the noise out at Utah. And I think, anytime you go into these venues in the Big 12, you better be ready for silent cadence. And, Texas Tech just did the clap the whole game and just, kind of struggled with that. So, obviously, you better be prepared for either one.
Looking like it's going to go to one transfer portal window. You have gotten some good players in the spring portal the last 2 years. What are your feelings and opinions on that?
Yeah, I think last couple of years, you've had 2 chances. So whatever, you kind of go through spring and say, all right, what else do we need to get? We're just going to have to do a great job of, all right, what do we need to try to go out and get at the end of the season? And I think you got to get all your needs met at that one particular time. It certainly will be different this year. With that, part of me says I like it because now you get your team. This is your team. Like you're set with your team by January, end of January. And you can go through all spring, go through the summer with your guys. This is who we're going to go to battle with in the fall. As opposed to, hey, January comes and then all of a sudden now in May we got to do it again. Like that's a little bit frustrating. I think to have to do it again in May. So, but it will be some adjustments. I think for everybody, to say you got to get your team right now at the end of December, January, and figure out what your needs are.
You have questions for Coach? Thank you, sir.
Awesome.